we're here at the Centennial Splash Park.
Summer is supposed to be hot. If that sounds cliche, wait till you see a certain energy company's tips to stay cool.
My dad drilled it into me since I was young.
A prominent Colorado Democrat is done being silent about President Biden's candidacy. Our presidential candidates could learn a thing or two about debating from a local high school. A murder trial in a rock-throwing case is on hold because of ADHD. And teens in trouble with the law in Denver get something unusual, an attorney. Why that's rare, next. Look both ways when crossing the street. Wear sunscreen in the sun. Turn off the lights when you're not using them. I would call these all common knowledge, except one of them showed up as a tip to save money in the heat. Xcel Energy is warning customers about upcoming energy action days and giving tips to stay cool and save money. About those tips.
I'm here with 3 of my children. We're here at the Centennial Splash Park.
No rocks, sand, or debris, and no glass containers. Those are the rules that everyone must follow. Playing in the water as a way to stay cool, that's just a tip, and it's one I probably do not need to tell you. Kind of like the first suggestion Xcel Energy recommends for customers to save on their bills during the extreme heat.
Did you know that if you turn your lights off when they're not in use, you could save money?
I did. My dad drilled it into me since I was young.
Jeremy is on dad duty this week. Today, it's the splash pad. Tomorrow, it's the neighborhood pool. Those are outdoors. What if you want to be indoors and still stay cool?
So you could take your kids to something like the library, where they already have air conditioning.
We might go to Monkey Business or go to the library.
Corinne has the same idea, to use other people's electricity to stay cool. Because the tips of turning off lights, replacing your bulbs with LEDs, and using appliances not in the middle of the day are, well, basic.
Common sense things that you just would expect to do.
But these tips sent out by Xcel are also meant to ease the strain on the grid and encourage less energy use, like installing a programmable thermostat that sets the temperature higher when the house is empty and lowers it when you come back home, using ceiling fans to cool the home, and closing drapes and blinds during the day.
Maybe new homeowners aren't familiar with some of the ideas and stuff like that.
Xcel charges the most for electricity from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m., a time when the company wants to ease the grid, which is also the hottest part of the day and also dinner time. It is not on Xcel's tip sheet, but one piece of advice I was told by an energy expert is to prep your dinner in the morning, though depending what you make, you might still have to use electricity to reheat it.
I don't know if that's realistic. Not for us. Kids can be finicky sometimes, and we try not to negotiate with the terrorists.
Oh boy. If you make a salad with marshmallows and Oreos, though, I don't think you'll need to negotiate at all. Xcel has 2 programs that come with discounts for customers, but it also allows Xcel control over your thermostat. You may learn about those programs if Xcel issues an Energy Action Day later this week. Energy Action Days have been used in Minnesota, where Xcel is headquartered, and now customers may receive the same tips we just talked about in your email inbox. Here's a sample of what Xcel may send on an Energy Action Day, recommendations to reduce your usage, and my favorite, unplug and read a book, play a board game, or spend quality time with your household. You know, while sweating because you've turned the thermostat up. Kathy?
Yeah?
Are you going to use the air conditioning between 3 and 7, or what's the temperature going to be outside to give us guidance on whether we should be using the air conditioning between 3 and 7?
I'm going to use other people's air conditioning, like Tegna and 9 News, the air conditioning here in the studios between 3 and 7. But I might suggest the new Twister movie's coming out in a few days, a nice, cool movie theater, or perhaps a little shoe shopping at the mall. Again, other people's air conditioning. I don't know, might not be a bad idea. And you've got days to think about this. We have a little bit of cloud cover out here, but it's doing little to cut the heat. We hit 90 in Denver today. That's average for the date, but it's the heat wave coming we want to prepare you for. Triple-digit highs are expected Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. This oppressive, extensive heat wave across the western U.S., they've been dealing with it for weeks. Now we're going to get in on the action. Might have heat advisories, excessive heat warnings for portions of western Colorado starting as early as tomorrow. This is something they've been dealing with across California, Oregon, Washington, Arizona, Utah, and we're seeing temperatures starting to soar already. Now, the high temperature today, 90 in Denver. We're still at 85 here, 91 in Lamar. But with the wind starting to ramp up, fire danger is also something that we want to be mindful of. The air quality is not great, high levels of ozone, so another ozone action day. This will carry us through 4 o'clock tomorrow. So tracking a few little thunderstorms moving from northwest to the south, and they've got a little bit of wind and lightning and maybe a few sprinkles on the windshield for those of you crossing Vail Pass or moving through the Johnson-Eisenhower Tunnel. Not a lot of water to cool us off in the next few days, but there's something on the radar, so we'll keep an eye on it for you throughout the evening. Futurecast shows those storms move out by about sunset. We get a hot, dry day again tomorrow, but again, an isolated gusty foothill storm not out of the question. And so as we move through the evening, temperatures in the 80s will drop into the 70s late tonight. And here we go. 93 on Wednesday, 96 on Thursday, into the triple digits we go. Possible record highs Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. No relief until Tuesday of next week. Yes, Marshall, Tuesday is the day to circle on the calendar. Temperatures in the 80s and maybe, just maybe, a little rain from thunderstorms. I'm saying there's a chance.
So I should come to work tomorrow for the free air conditioning. That's what you're saying. So the Oak Ridge fire in Pueblo County is now 70% contained. The fire remains about 1,300 acres. Here's the bizarre stat of the day. Fire crews have used 402,000 gallons of water, and this is real, 1,200 dragon eggs. If you, like me, said out loud, what the heck is a dragon egg? It's basically a ball of chemicals that can be dropped by drone or helicopter. They're used to ignite and burn dry fuel. Yes, they start fires. That's the dragon part of the name. It's like a prescribed burn, but it's used to help contain the fire. You and me learn something new every day. Most Colorado Democrats remain silent about President Biden and his candidacy following the presidential debate that have renewed concerns about his age and mental capacity. I say most because Congresswoman Diana DeGette sent out a glowing news release about the president after meeting with him today. Then there's Senator John Hickenlooper, who I'm not quite sure. You decide.
If you're trying to get me to take a position on whether he should continue his campaign, I will collectively avoid answering the question, just because right now it's a process of really listening. I don't think I've ever been in a more complicated political environment in my life. So it's probably not the right time for me to make news.
A rare on-camera sighting of a Democrat from Colorado talking about the president. House and Senate Democrats met privately to discuss concerns about the Biden campaign today after at least 6 congressional Democrats publicly said he should drop out. Biden has repeatedly said he's not going anywhere. Hickenlooper, after that word salad, went on to say whatever Biden decides will, quote, be the right thing for the country. We should note, we've asked every Democrat in Colorado's congressional delegation for an interview about whether they think Biden should remain the Democratic nominee. They've all declined. Governor Jared Polis has also repeatedly avoided our requests to talk about it. A judge today ordered a mental health evaluation for the final suspect accused of killing a woman by throwing a rock at her car. Defense attorneys for Joseph Koenig said his attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, is a problem and a condition that needs to be evaluated for a jury to understand. Koenig was one of 3 people charged in Alexa Bartel's death in April 2023. Prosecutors say they threw a large landscaping rock from a truck that hit Bartel's windshield and killed her. The other 2 defendants took plea deals that call for them to be sentenced after they testify in his trial. Well, his lawyers claim he has a mental condition, ADHD, and that he needs an evaluation so the jury can hear how a teenager's brain develops.
It's extraordinarily unusual for a defense attorney to attempt to raise such things as ADHD or adolescent brain development.
The judge ordered a mental health evaluation. A new trial date will not be set until the court receives the results. And just because the evaluation is happening does not mean the defense can actually use those results. The judge will ultimately decide that. A federal judge in Colorado is not sure, quote, being called by God is reason enough to override zoning restrictions and allow a Castle Rock church to temporarily house the homeless on church property. The Rock Church is suing to resume a temporary shelter program for 2 RVs parked on the church lot. The town of Castle Rock ordered the shelter shut down after a complaint saying the only shelter the church can provide on its property is the pastor's home. The church's lawsuit claims it is a violation of federal law prohibiting land use regulations that significantly interfere with religious beliefs, namely that God is calling the church to house the homeless. Our partners at Colorado Politics were in federal court yesterday where a judge seemed hesitant to buy that argument. The judge said that could open the floodgates for the church to ignore zoning rules, to develop on their property, and allow other religious groups to follow suit. Attorneys for Castle Rock argued the church could go through the regular rezoning process or help the homeless in other ways, like connecting them to existing shelters. There's no timeline for when the court will issue a ruling. If the Rock Church sounds familiar, it's because we went there in 2022 after FEC United members had an event at the church and called for the hanging of Democratic Colorado Secretary of State Jenna Griswold for unproven election fraud. FEC United is the conservative group with a militia wing. The Rock Church will also host the August meeting of the Colorado GOP, perhaps a future episode of As the Colorado GOP Turns. How about some positive debate news for a change? A debate team in Colorado is getting national attention in a good way. A new report shows students are finally starting to bounce back from a financial aid disaster, but Colorado is still behind. Kids accused of breaking the law are finally getting help. Lawyers, next. I made the mistake of saying the word school last week in a story in early July. So since I've ripped the Band-Aid off, let's talk about the drastic drop in student aid applications at Colorado colleges, which should not be a surprise after a disastrous and much delayed rollout of a new federal student aid form. According to new data from the National College Attainment Network, a little more than a third of Colorado seniors submitted a federal student aid application by the end of June. That's lower than this time last year and well below the national average. Colorado colleges have braced for a drop in enrollment all year after the Department of Education created a new form for students to apply for financial aid. Significant problems with the new process led to months of delays, and several colleges in Colorado pushed back enrollment deadlines. The good news is Colorado students are procrastinators. Student aid applications increased significantly from where they were in March, when applications were nearly 40% behind last year's numbers. Putting on a good debate performance can be hard. Just ask two certain presidential candidates. They could learn a thing or two from the nationally ranked debate team at Denver's George Washington High School, where photojournalist Byron Reed caught up with one of the team's members.
Part of what I love most about this school is our speech and debate team, for sure. I think most recently we took about 30 people to nationals, which is a lot of kids. That is a very big team. Hi, my name is Lindsay Sija. I go to George Washington High School. I'm a rising senior here, and I'm part of GWHS speech and debate. We have a really large team. It's super diverse, super full of people with all kinds of different ideas who have totally different messages to spread, and it's a great place for them to do that.
80% of Black women in America alter their natural curls.
Everyone does different events ranging from debate events to speech, which we have interpretation events, which are kind of like acting, and then platform speaking, which is what I do. Before I was a freshman, my mom said, Your older brother loves speech and debate. Why don't you do it? It's one of the best things about this school. Their team is amazing. And at first I was a little hesitant. I was like, do I want to do public speaking? This year was the first time I've ever been to national finals. As soon as you start speaking, I feel much less nervous, but when you're walking up to the stage or walking up to wherever you're speaking, that's when it's I get really nervous. This year I got third at nationals, which was incredible. Breaking to finals was a total dream for me, and being able to be on the stage was incredible. Other extracurriculars are super important, but I feel like the sense of community within speech and debate is unlike any other I have found in any of my other activities. I think I underestimated it going into George, but I've really learned throughout my time here that what the finalists, not only finalists, but everyone who's ever been on our speech and debate team has left behind is really incredible.
I want to watch her debate and see what that giant iPhone-looking pad was. George Washington's speech and debate team finished 4th in this year's national competition, competing against more than 6,000 students from 1,500 schools. Kids who need legal help may finally get it. Denver is offering a first-of-its-kind service in Colorado. That's next. Law school takes years, so it makes perfect sense that kids younger than 18 would have to defend themselves in municipal court if their families could not afford an attorney. Angeline McCall shows us how Denver will be the first in Colorado to change that.
Across the city of Denver, young people under 18 are getting tickets and citations Things that seem small that defense attorneys say are anything but.
Those are all traumatic experiences for a young person.
Even more traumatic that youth haven't had the right to a public defender in municipal court when cited for petty crimes like trespassing or school fights.
And then to find out that young people in municipal court don't have the option, and really most families do not have the ability to hire counsel. It was just an awful fact to uncover.
Casey Duncan with the Municipal Defender's Office says most people are shocked to learn that if families couldn't pay for a private attorney, they'd have to represent themselves.
The collateral consequences, the harm that can be done by charging a child and asking them to represent themselves is massive. So that then starts off this path of what we know as the school to prison pipeline.
So the Office of the Municipal Public Defender went to City Council in December. 7 months later, the program offering defense counsel is off the ground, led by Casey and Nicole Duncan.
You also have the right to dignity throughout this process, throughout this very scary process that has the ability to touch every single aspect of your life.
A new change and right for young people that the office says is long overdue.
And we're hoping that we can, provide some meaningful resources and connections along the way that might, give some small silver lining to the unfortunate reality of a young person being in court charged with a crime.
Once the Municipal Defender's Office went to City Council, the council then voted unanimously to add funding for these positions. That was in December. The program has its first docket of cases on Thursday.
This seems like it was a problem that was always ongoing and probably targeting people who just couldn't be affording an attorney and having to defend themselves without the expertise.
Yeah, it's just further exacerbating problems, right? So it's a good thing that they're fixing it. But when you think about citations, when you think about who's targeted, right, by police when it comes to crime, we know that there are typically communities of color. And then it's only further marginalizing, right, groups that maybe have setbacks. And so when they can't afford an attorney, then you're asking kids who might be as young as 10 or 11 to defend themselves. I think that you and me couldn't even do that much.
Sure, like Doogie Howser is accidentally in a Denver courtroom, but the lawyer version of that. That's incredible. We'll see which city takes the second step to do this also. Angeline, thank you. Feedback is next, and I understand there's zipper feedback. I haven't even done a zipper story in 2 days this week, and there's zipper feedback? Excellent. The most Colorado thing we saw today is John Denver and a bunch of elk.
Doesn't get any more Colorado than this.
That's my line. Tracy sent us this video last night from Estes Park. Singer, cowboy Brad Fitch was midway through a John Denver tribute concert when he was interrupted by a group of mama elk and their 5 calves. They couldn't resist the call of Rocky Mountain High. Our zipper feedback, and I didn't even do a zipper story, is that we should do a symbol that goes like this, back to 1 and then back to 2, so that it symbolizes going back to 2 lanes after the zipper point, and if it never goes back to 2 lanes, you've just given someone a peace sign. We got a text that said, my dad fined us in the 80s if we left things on, lights, TV, etc., 25 cents in the 80s. Paul did not appreciate my sarcasm about the obvious tips from Xcel, saying not to give up my day job to be a comic. Perhaps he should save energy by turning off the TV between 6 and 6:30. That backfired.